Hi, I'm Girish H, Associate Professor, Department of ECE, Cambridge Institute of Technology. In this video, I'm going to explain memory registers and aspects of system timing. That is Module 5 in VLSI Design subject. So first, let us see about system timing consideration. Okay, in this system timing consideration, we'll see what would be required for us to design a memory or a register. Okay, so if we want to design a memory or a register, okay, we need two-phase non-overlapping clock. So we'll assume that two-phase non-overlapping clock is available with us. Okay, using that, we'll try to operate the memory. The clock phases are to be identified as phi 1 and phi 2, and we'll also assume that phi 1 leads phi 2. Fine. So in memory, we can perform three operations: write, read, and refreshing. So first, okay, if we want to perform write operation, we'll see what to be done. Bits or data to be stored or written to registers or storage elements and the subsystems on phi 1 of the clock. That is, write signal WR are ANDed with phi. Right? If we want to perform write operation, we'll use WR control signal that will be ANDed with phi 1, so that we can perform write operation. Right. Okay. So once the data is written, we'll have to make sure that the data is written properly. Okay. So before we perform refreshing operation, the bits or data written into the storage element may be assumed to have settled before phi 2 signal, and phi 2 signal may be used to refresh. Fine. Okay. Once the write operation is done properly, then only you can perform refreshing using phi 2 clock. Right. And in general, the delays through data path or combinational logic, etc., are assumed to be less than the interval between the leading edges of phi 1 and phi 2. So whatever delay is there, okay, that should be in between phi 1 and phi 2. Once the write operation is performed or read operation is performed, then only we'll have to perform phi 2. In such a way, phi 1 and phi 2 clock will be used. Right? Next, the bits or data may be read from storage elements on the next phi 1 of the clock. That is, read signal RD or ANDed with phi 1. Obviously, RD and WR are mutually exclusive. Right? Okay, here we'll use RD along with phi 1. When RD and phi 1 both are 1, okay, we can perform read operation. The data which is there in the memory can be read onto the bus. Right? Okay, a general requirement for system stability is that there must be at least one storage element in series with every clock, every closed loop signal path. Right? Okay, if we want to design any subsystem or a combinational circuits, we need to use at least one memory or register so that the data can be stored. Otherwise, your data will be lost. Right? Last class, we had taken an example of pseudo static memory cell, and we had analyzed this system timing consideration. Yeah. Okay. So now we'll see some commonly used storage or memory elements. Okay, in order to make a comparative assessment, some possible storage elements we'll consider. In that, we'll have to consider three factors: area requirement, estimated power dissipation per bit stored, and volatility. So these three factors we'll consider for any memory element or storage element or register element. Right? So last class, I had taken an example of dynamic shift register. I had learned about dynamic shift register in module 2 itself. Okay, there we had drawn circuit diagram, stick diagram, layout diagram for NMOS inverting shift register as well as for CMOS inverting shift register. Here we'll try to analyze. Fine. I'll just brief you about this inverting NMOS dynamic shift register. Okay, here initially we'll apply phi 1 is equal to 0. When phi 1 is made 0, this T1 transistor will be off. If T1 is off, then there is no connection between input and output. So that is what it is written here. And your Q output will be Z. Even for this also same thing. Okay, there is inverting CMOS dynamic shift resistor. Here we'll use a transmission gate and CMOS inverter. Okay, so the logic diagram for inverting CMOS dynamic shift resistor. Here when phi 1 is 0, your T1 transmission gate will be off and there is no connection from input to output, then your Q output will be at high impedance. Yeah, this I had explained last class only, right? Okay, I'm just trying to repeat. Okay, so next we'll apply phi 1 is equal to 1. When phi 1 is 1, T1 transistor will be on. When phi 1 is 1, this T1 transmission gate will be on. Now D input will be available at the input of inverter, so that it will be inverter. And your Q output will be D bar. Fine. Okay. So what are input you apply, that will be inverter. Next, we'll see about non-inverting NMOS dynamic shift resistor as well as CMOS dynamic shift resistor. And this also I had explained last class. I'm repeating, that's all. Okay. So now you can see I've used two inverting cell. Okay, this is one inverting cell, this is another inverting cell. Two inverting cells has been cascaded. Okay. So here I've used one pass transistor and one inverter for inverting cell, and it is cascaded so that you'll get non-inverting. Yeah. Here we'll be using two-phase non-overlapping clock. Phi 1 and phi 2 clock will be used. So here you can see the stick and the symbol diagram of this non-inverting NMOS dynamic shift resistor is shown. The stick encoding of pass transistor is drawn and the symbol of inverter is retained as it is. Right? Okay, this is for T1, this is for T2. Clear? So in this, okay, you can see two non-inverting CMOS, two inverting CMOS dynamic shift resistor was cascaded in order to get non-inverting CMOS dynamic shift resistor. Here you can see the stick diagram of transmission gate is drawn. The symbol of inverter, the stick diagram of transmission gate, symbol of inverter. Yeah. So in this transmission gate, we have used NMOS and PMOS transistor. They are connected in parallel. NMOS is using phi 1 clock. Here you can see this is NMOS pass transistor, which is using phi 1 clock. Okay, the gate is connected to phi 1. Here you can see phi 1 bar clock, which is applied to gate of PMOS transistor. This is PMOS pass transistor stick encoding, which uses phi 1 bar clock. The gate is connected to phi 1 bar clock. So the diffusions are connected in parallel. Okay, so both the diffusions of PMOS and NMOS are connected in parallel. That is interconnected. Yeah. Okay. Now we'll see how this dynamic shift register works. So last class I had explained this also, right? So here, okay, we'll use phi 1 and phi 2 clock. Okay. When phi 1 is made 0 and phi 2 is made 1, your T1 transistor will be off and T2 transistor will be on. Getting it? Okay. So next, what will happen? So whatever D input you apply, that will not be passed because this transistor is off. Your data will not be propagated. Since this transistor is off, that is T1 is off, your D input will not be connected to output. And your Q output will be at high impedance. Understood? This is what I have written here. Similarly, for this non-inverting CMOS dynamic shift register, we'll apply phi 1 is equal to 0, so that phi 1 bar will become 1, and we'll apply phi 2 is equal to 1, and your phi 2 bar will be 0, right? Your T1 transmission gate is off and T2 transmission gate is on, and your Q output will be at high impedance, right? The operation of non-inverting NMOS and CMOS dynamic shift register is same. That's what I have written here. Okay, getting it? Okay, understood, no? Fine. Next, we'll change the clock. We'll have to change phi 1 from 0 to 1 and phi 2 from 1 to 0, right? So that whatever D input is applied, that will be stored in the register. Getting it? Okay. So now I'm changing the clock. Second case I'm considering. We'll apply phi 1 is equal to 1. Fine. Okay. When phi 1 is 1, phi 1 bar will be 0. So your T1 will be on. Fine. So during that time, phi 2 should be 0. Okay. When phi 2 is 0, phi 2 bar will be 1. Getting it? I'm explaining parallelly. Here T2 will be off. Fine. Okay. Now let us assume that D is equal to 1. Okay. If D input is 1, we'll see what will happen. Understood, no? Second case consider. Now what will happen? Whatever data you applied, okay, that will be passed here. Okay, since T1 is on, okay, that will be passed. Okay, it will be stored, okay, in the input capacitance of, okay, inverter 1. Okay, that is first inverter. Okay, you'll get logic 1 here. And that is inverted, you'll get 0. Getting it? Okay, during that time, T2 is off. Okay, here your data is stored in the dynamic shift register. Understood, no? Okay. So here also same thing. Your T1 transmission gate will be on. Your data will be propagated, and okay, it will be stored in the, okay, input capacitance of, okay, inverter 1. Okay, this is inverter 1, and that is inverted. You'll get 0. Your data has been stored. Understood, no? Okay. Next. So here I'll consider this one. Last case we'll take. Okay. Okay. In the second case, we had stored the data. The last case we'll take. So here I'll make 5 and 0. Okay, when 5 and is okay, I'll use the stick diagram and the symbol diagram to explain. Okay. Here 5 and bar will be 1. So that your T1 transistor will be off, and here T1 transmission gate is on. Understood, no? Okay. So previously we had applied D is equal to 1 for D. Previously we had applied D is equal to 1. Yeah. Getting it now? Okay. So now we'll apply phi 2 is equal to 1, so that your T2 will be on. Right? So here T2 transistor as well as transmission gate is on. Understood, no? Okay. So whatever input you had applied, that you should get here, right? You should get Q is equal to D. We'll see whether we'll get Q is equal to D or not. Getting it? Okay. So here in the last case, okay, we had applied okay, phi 1 is equal to 0, phi 2 is equal to 1. Okay. Whatever data you had here at the output of first inverter, okay, that will be passed. Okay, since T2 is on, okay, since T2 is on, your data will be propagated. Okay, that will be available at the okay, input of second inverter. Okay, the second inverter okay, will be having 0, and that is inverted. You'll get D is equal to 1. Understood, no? Whatever data you had stored in this memory, okay, that is inverted. Okay, here we had 1, that is inverted 0. Okay, that 0 is passed by this pass transistor, we got 0, and that is inverted, we got 1. So whatever input we had applied, that we got. Understood? Okay. Even here also same thing. Okay, so whatever input which was available at the input of first inverter, that is inverted, we got 0. That logic 0 is passed via NMOS transistor because NMOS is good at passing logic 0. Okay, we'll get 0 here, that is inverted, we'll get clear. So we'll try to operate dynamic shift resistor. It may be NMOS or CMOS. This is non-inverting. Okay, whatever input you apply, that okay, will be inverted. At the first inverter, again it is inverted in the second. Okay, whatever input you apply at D, will get at the output. Is this clear? Understood, no? Okay. Can hear, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now you understood okay, how the inverting NMOS and CMOS dynamic shift resistor works and non-inverting NMOS and CMOS dynamic shift resistor works. Right? Okay, this can store 1 bit of information. Either 0 or 1 can be stored in this memory element. Yeah. Okay. So once the memory is designed, okay, we have drawn the logic diagram. Okay, then we can draw the stick diagram. Then we can draw the layout diagram. Clear? You know how to draw the stick diagram for NMOS inverter as well as CMOS inverter, right? Here you can see the stick diagram for NMOS pass transistor. This is the stick diagram for transmission gate, right? Here, okay, we'll have to use the stick diagram for NMOS inverter. Here we'll have to use the stick diagram for CMOS inverter. Right? By using that, we can try to draw the layout diagram. Okay. Here you can see the layout diagram of NMOS dynamic shift register cell. Okay. So here I have not drawn the complete layout diagram. Only half of the layout diagram is drawn. Okay. Here I have drawn the layout diagram for this part. The inverter and the pass transistor. Okay, this part I have drawn the layout diagram. Getting it? Okay. Here you can see the layout diagram was drawn for NMOS inverter, and this is the layout which is drawn for pass transistor. Right? Okay. So here you can see this is the layout for NMOS depletion mode transistor, okay, whose ratio is 4:1, and this is NMOS enhancement mode transistor, okay, whose ratio is 1:2. Fine. Okay. So we have drawn the layout diagram. Okay, this is nothing but contact cut, and this is nothing but NMOS depletion mode transistor. Okay, here a buried contact is used. So this is nothing but contact, right? And you have an idea how to draw the layout, right? Fine. So I'll just explain how to draw the stick diagram for NMOS inverter. Okay. So first, okay, we need to draw VDD rail. Then, okay, we need to draw VSS rail, leaving enough space in between. Right? First, we need to draw VDD rail and VSS rail. Here I'm explaining how to draw the stick diagram for NMOS inverter. Okay. Then we'll have to draw the diffusion path between VDD and VSS. We need to draw diffusion path between VDD and VSS. Okay, this is the diffusion path which is drawn. We'll use green color for diffusion path. Right? It should be in rectangles. Fine. And you know that by crossing poly we'll get transistor. I'll cross one poly here, I'll cross another poly, so that you'll get two transistors. Getting it? Okay. And the upper one is the depletion mode transistor. For that, we need to show the implant. Okay, implant should be drawn like this. Getting it? Okay. And we need to make a contact. Here, one contact would be required. Okay, this is contact cut. Here, one contact would be required. So just okay, remember the circuit diagram. Okay, done. Next, okay, there's nothing but gate. That gate should be connected to the source of pull down transistor. From there we can take the output, or else you can leave it here itself. And a contact would be required. You make a contact. Okay, like this, we'll draw the stick diagram for NMOS inverter. Okay, so the ratio for pull-up transistor is 4:1, and the ratio for pull-down transistor is 1:2. Yeah. And next, we need to draw a pass transistor. Okay, you can draw a pass transistor. Here I'll draw N plus diffusion. And next, you will draw a poly. Okay, that poly is extended like this. Getting it? Okay. So this poly is connected to clock, maybe 5-1 or 5-2. And buried contact here. So you can make a contact. Yeah. Okay, this is the stick diagram. Using that stick diagram, we have drawn the left diagram. That's it. Understood? No? So we'll multiply this by 2 lambda. So that you'll get 8 lambda by 2 lambda. Okay, this is 8 lambda. And the width is 2 lambda. Yeah. So nothing but contact cut. Here I've used a contact cut, right? So this is diffusion. Okay, this is the diffusion which is drawn. Okay, a poly is crossed. A poly is crossed here. Right? Yeah, poly should be shaded like this. Okay, and you know how to shade the diffusion. Diffusion will be shaded. And this is buried contact. Here, buried contact is used. Yeah. And here we have NMOS depletion mode transistor. Okay, this is NMOS depletion, enhancement mode transistor. The ratio is 1:2. We'll multiply by 2 lambda, so that you will get 2 lambda is to 4 lambda. Right? Okay, your width is 4 lambda here. And the length is 2 lambda. Okay, the channel length is 2 lambda. Getting it? Okay. So by crossing diffusion or poly, you'll get transistor. Okay, in pull down, we have drawn the transistor. That's it. And there's nothing but pass transistor. Okay, there's nothing but N plus diffusion that is drawn here. And a poly should be crossed. Okay, a poly is crossed here. That's it. Right? So diffusion is connected to diffusion itself. Okay, there's nothing but diffusion. No, we could have taken like this only. Okay, instead of connecting here, we could have connected like this. Right, one of the same. Understood? No? Okay. Okay. So I got an idea, I think, how to draw the layout for NMOS dynamic shift register cell. Okay, the layout. Once the layout is drawn, we'll get to know the area. Okay, I need area. So this is 22 lambda, and this is 33 lambda. Okay, length into width, you'll get the area. Okay, here in this shift register, your metal width is 3 lambda. Okay, this metal width is 3 lambda. Okay, which is common for n number of memory cells. Okay, we'll try to ignore this. Fine. So here you can see, okay, some 0.5 lambda. Okay, we can consider for the memory, and here also some 0.5 lambda can be considered for the memory. So totally it is 6 lambda, 3 lambda, 3 lambda means 6 lambda will be common. So 0.5 lambda means 1 lambda. We'll subtract 1 lambda from 6 lambda, that means we'll get 5 lambda. So that is why we'll subtract 33 lambda by 5 lambda, so that we'll get some 28 lambda. Understood, no? Here, the power supply rail. Here, the power supply rail is common for n number of memory cells. Power supply rail is common for n number of memory cells, right? So we need to ignore this. Okay, we need to ignore this. Okay, here, okay, 3 lambda would be required for top one and 3 lambda would be required for bottom. In this, only 0.5 will be considered for memory and 0.5 here, right? Totally it will become 1 lambda. That is why, okay, we'll subtract by 1 lambda. Okay, 3 lambda plus 3 lambda means 6 lambda. If you subtract by 1 lambda, you'll get 5 lambda. 33 lambda minus 5 lambda means you'll get 28 lambda. So now actual area will be 22 lambda by 28 lambda. Understood, no? So that is the area. Okay. So now we'll see how to calculate the area. As I told you that if you design any memory, 3 factors should be considered: area, power dissipation, and volatility. First, let us see about area. Okay, we got an idea how much area would be required for us. Okay, we drawn the layout. We got 22 lambda by 28 lambda from this layout. So that we'll consider for the memory. So here you can see 22 lambda into 28 lambda I had consider. Only half memory, right? Only for half we had consider. Twice would be required, no? That's why we'll multiply by 2. Getting it? Here only half, 1 inverter, 1 pass transistor I had consider. If you take non-inverting cell, 2 pass transistors, 2 inverters will be there. Right. Okay. So here for 1 inverter and 1 pass transistor, we got the areas 22 lambda by 28 lambda. We'll multiply by 2 so that you'll get 1200 lambda square. Lambda into lambda, you'll get lambda square. Right. So that much area would be required to store 1 bit. Understood, no? So that much area would be required to store 1 bit. So that is 1200 lambda square. So now we'll consider 5 micron technology. We'll consider 5 micron technology. Okay. So in 5 micron technology, your lambda value we need to calculate. So 5 micron technology means it's nothing but channel length of the MOS transistor, which is equal to 5 micrometer. Okay. 5 micron technology means your length will be 5 micrometer. Understood? There are many technologies, okay, like 5 micrometer, 2 micrometer, 1.2, 60 nanometer, 45 nanometer, 22 nanometer, 14 nanometer. At present, some 7 nanometer technologies running. Right. Your Intel i7 processor was designed by using 14 nanometer technology. That means your channel length of your transistor will be 14 nanometer. Understood, no? Okay. For that 14 nanometer, you can fabricate some trillions of transistor in a small IC. Fine. Okay, this is old one. We have considered very first technology, that is 5 micron technology. For 5 micron technology, your channel length will be 5 micrometer, and your lambda will be your channel length in terms of lambda will be 2 lambda. Understood, no? Okay, getting it? Okay. So here I'm considering 5 micron technology. In 5 micron technology, channel length will be 5 micrometer. If it is 5 micrometer, then in terms of lambda, it will be 2 lambda. Then your lambda value will be 5 micrometer divided by 2. So therefore, you will get 2.5 micrometer 2.5 micrometer. Understood, no? So that you have to substitute here, that's all. Okay. So here 1200 into lambda value. For 5 micron technology, your lambda value is 2.5. Okay, that is 5 micrometer by 2. So if you multiply by 2.5 micrometer, how much you'll get? You need to calculate. Getting it, no? So you'll get 7,500 micrometer square. Right? So here, in order to store 1 bit of information in NMOS non-inverting cell, you need 7,500 micrometer square. Right? This much area would be required. Understood? Okay. Next, I'll give one small IC chip. Okay, I'll give a small IC chip for you. I'll ask you how many NMOS dynamic shift register can be integrated in this, and how many bit of information you can store. Okay, getting it? Here I'll give a small IC chip for you. I'm giving a small IC chip for you. So whose length is 4 micrometer, whose width is 4 millimeter, sorry, not micrometer, millimeter. I'll give an IC chip whose dimension is 4 mm by 4 mm. Getting it? Okay, in this, I'm asking you to find how many bits can be stored. Understood? Can you tell me how much you may get? For 1 bit, how much area is required? For 1 bit,
200 into 2.5 is not 7,500, sir.
1200.
Sir, 1,200 into 2.5 is not 7,500, sir.
Okay.
It's 3,000.
3,000 square. Again, we need to square, sorry. Lambda square is there, no? You square, no? You multiply by 2.5 again. Now you are getting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. So I forgot. This is lambda square. We substituted for lambda. Okay, that should be squared. Okay, when you square, you'll get 7,500 micrometer square. Okay. Understood? Okay. So now we need to find the maximum number of bits which can be stored in this IC. Okay, that is 4 mm by 4 mm chip. Okay. So here for 1 bit, how much area is required? So for 7,500 micrometer square, how many bits of information can be stored?
1.
1 bit, no? For 7500 micrometer square, we can store 1 bit, right? This is equal to 1 bit. Okay. So now I am giving you an area that is 4 millimeter into 4 millimeter. Okay, in this I'm asking you how many bits can be stored. Getting it? Okay. So now, can you calculate and tell me how much you may get? Cross multiply. 4 mm into 4 mm into 1 bit divided by 7500 micrometers. So that's what I have done here. Okay. 4 into 4 millimeter. Milli means 10 to the power of minus 3. Millimeter into millimeter square. Okay, you'll get no. So divided by 7500 micrometer square. Micro means 10 to the power of minus 6 whole square. Okay, this one 7500 into 10 to the power of minus 6 whole square. Okay, so I'll get 2.1 kilobits of information. Will I get? You'll get no?
Sure, sure.
So, okay. So here, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to find how much area would be required to store 1 bit of information and how many bits can be stored in a given area. That's it. Okay. So like this, we'll do the analysis. Right? Okay. This is about area for NMOS dynamic shift register. So we got to know we can store 2.1 kilobits of information in 4 mm by 4 mm chip area. Right? Next, we need to find what is the power dissipated for NMOS dynamic shift register. Getting it? Okay. So you have an idea how to find the power dissipation. Okay. So in module 4, I had taught, right? For NMOS inverter, you had learned how to find power dissipation. So now we'll see, okay, how to find the power dissipation. So here we are considering NMOS dynamic shift register, right? This one, right? For this inverter, we need to find power dissipation, and for this inverter, we need to find power dissipation. Okay, there are 2 inverters, right? This is inverter 1, this is inverter 2, right? This is D input, okay, this is Q output. Understood, no? Okay, here both the inverters will not be on at the same time, right? If one is on, other one will be off. If other one is on, okay, the first one will be off, right? Okay, here we'll have to take average of these two, right? We'll have to take average of these two, fine? Okay, the pull-up transistor, okay, will have a ratio of 4:1, and the pull-down transistor will have a ratio of 1:2, right? And you know how to find the resistance and all, right? Okay, so the total resistance of an inverter, okay, if you consider one inverter, I'll draw one inverter, right? There is the circuit diagram for NMOS inverter, okay. The upper one is NMOS depletion mode transistor. The lower one is NMOS enhanced mode transistor. The upper transistor will have a ratio of 4:1. The lower transistor will have a ratio of 1:2. Right? Okay, you know how to find resistance of pull up as well as pull down, no? Right. Okay, here Z is taken as the impedance. Okay, so Z is taken as the impedance, and we'll try to find the impedance. Okay, or else you can take this as R itself. Okay, and we know that okay, R is equal to the ratio. Okay, that is L by W ratio. That is nothing but Z into the sheet resistance. Okay. So if you want, you can find for pull up as well as for pull down. Right, this is for pull up. Okay, since ratio is 4/1, we'll get 4. Okay, that will be multiplied by 10K. So then we'll get 40K now here. And this is the impedance of pull down. 1/2 into RS I have taken. Ratio is 1/2. RS is nothing but 10K. Right. 1/2 is nothing but 0.5 into 10K. So 40K plus 5K will get 45K. Right? Understood, no? Right. Okay. Instead of taking R, I have taken Z. Here I have considered as impedance. That's it. Getting it, no? Okay. Here the total impedance is 45K. Okay. The upper transistor is having a resistance of 40K, and the lower one is having a resistance of 5K. Okay. Now current will be drawn from VDD to ground. That current will find. Okay. Current. Okay, we'll take it as 5 volts. Okay, this micro is not required. Okay, VDD is nothing but 5, no? VDD is 5. You know how to find current, okay? By using Ohm's law, I can find I is equal to V by V by. Okay, V is nothing but 5 volts. 5 volts divided by 45K. So you may get some 110 microampere. Understood, no? Okay. And then the static current per bit is VDD into current. Okay, so power. Okay, power we are trying to find. P is equal to 1 second. P we are trying to find. Power is equal to V into I. So V is VDD. That is nothing but 5 volts into current we had found 110 microampere. So we'll get 550 microwatt. Getting it? Okay, the power wasted is 550 microwatt per bit. And if you want to find for 2.1 kilobits of information on a single chip, which is of 4 mm by 4 mm, we just multiply by 550 micro. Understood, no? Here we are trying to find power dissipation in NMOS dynamic shift resistor. In NMOS dynamic shift resistor, okay, we have okay, 2 pass transistors and 2 inverters. At a time, one inverter will be on. Both will not be on at the same time. Okay, that is why we'll take only one inverter. So for this inverter, we are trying to find power dissipation. Okay, so first you can find current and then multiply with voltage, you will get power, or else you can use this formula directly and you can find P is equal to V square divided by R. Okay, earlier we had used this formula only, no? Right. Okay, V square is nothing but 5 square and the total resistance is 40K, 45K. Okay, 40K plus 5K, will get 45K, which will get it as 550 microwatt. Understood, no? Okay. So this is for 1 bit. 1 bit. And if you want to find for 2.1 kilobits, you just multiply. Okay, I'll get 1.215 watts. Clear? Okay. So like in this way, we'll try to find power dissipation in NMOS dynamic shifter system. Thank you.